Hello and welcome to another Office Hours. Capsule. That's right, a little capsule, a little section of our Office Hours live stream, which you can catch live on twitch.tv/theastropub, youtube.com/theastropub live on Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, usually on Thursdays, but this one's being done on a Friday because I was dead tired on Thursday, but generally speaking on Thursdays. So make sure you catch us live. Make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. And of course, jump on Twitch and follow us there. We'd love to see you there. The follows, the subscriptions, the likes, the little icon, little bell icons, do all those sorts of things. It helps a lot if you enjoy these sorts of content because it does mean a lot and tells the YouTube robots that other people like you should enjoy this. So this is live as always, and so you'll see chat over here going up. You'll see them being dirty little liars and tell you this is pre-recorded, which I guess technically by the time you're watching it is, but not when I'm recording it. It's in front of a live chat, which are assholes.
Them biddies.
With like stuff like that, which I need to turn off. Thank you, chat. Anyways, this is the Squadron 42 monthly report for the month of August. So this is not going to be a summary. This is going to be a full read through, as you can tell down below. I've been doing this for years now. And as always, there's nothing wrong with summaries. But the idea being, if you're reading things from beginning to end, it's always the best to give you the best context for stuff. I know not everyone has the time to. Sometimes you have time just to put me on while you're working or something like that and just catch up the information. I'm your audiobook for the for the updates, which is fine. But note that I will also be giving in some context for other things that have been mentioned in previous monthly reports. And some of this stuff is literally copy-pasted from the Star Citizen monthly reports because they share the same engine and a lot of the stuff is very similar. With that all being said, let's get into the August 2023 Squadron 42 monthly report. All right. Nope. Oh, too much. All right. AI features. Last month, AI reviewed perception to fix issues where NPCs couldn't correctly recognize that a target had died or that it had seen a situation before. AI is just shooting into dead bodies. These issues led to various bugs, including AI constantly calling for med pens or remaining in combat after it had finished. They also revisited cover usage, polishing various functionality and animations to ensure that feature works across the range of situations and environments. Changes and fixes were also made to the tactical point system, which is used to drive where the AI moves. So this is a point system, like little tokens, little icons that they get for various locations. And I think that actually might be different. That might be different from this. This may be movement. This will identify what needs to be adjusted when reviewing combat in new locations. Balancing was done for AI ammunition usage while maintaining reload and ammo finding functionality to provide realistic and emergent behaviors in the gameplay solutions. So this is something that people have discovered in the current build of 320, which is that AI will actually loot dead bodies for guns and gear. So of their comrades, which is something that they've been mentioning in AI reports for a long time. So it seems like some of this AI system is starting to be added into Star Citizen from Squadron 42, because that's a feature that's been in Squadron 42 for a bit, and they've been testing it out and refining it over time. But this is pretty much word for word what was in the Star Citizen monthly report too. The team continued to review, revisit, and polish combat, including low and high cover reload animations for different weapons and female animations converted from male assets. They also began developing animations for Marine Squad hand signals to sell group movement and combat. Very cool. AI tech. Last month, AI tech added an undo and redo functionality to the Apollo subsumption tool. They also began improving subsumption data, validation for better presentation, and more explicit validation errors. This will allow for the designers to iterate faster when creating and adjusting missions and behaviors. On the Boyd's feature, mentioned in last month's report, AI tech continued implementing base functionality to allow agents, rats, birds, etc., to adopt different states. such as wandering, idling, or fleeing, and transition between them. They're currently looking for a low-cost solution to keep agents on terrain while moving. This is again straight from Star Citizen. For NPC audio perception, the team implemented new functionality for how audio stimuli is propagated. This involves using the room system and how rooms are connected to determine whether an audio event should be heard. They also continued to improve navigation links. Firstly, how links connect navigation triangles from different zones, which isn't working as intended. Secondly, they fixed how animations play when they begin and finish in different zones. For example, when NPCs jump onto the ground from a hovering ship. Finally, investigation began into performance issues relating to the navigation system and Pathfinder. A lot of this stuff is them improving on stuff they've worked in previous months, effectively. Boy, all that stuff is previous month kind of improvements. AI vehicles. Vehicle AI's primary priority in August was working through issues preventing the new AI features from working correctly. They fixed faults with the recent aiming system refactor to ensure NPCs shoot correctly, and worked on level designers to fix various miscellaneous problems causing the AI to not work in certain places. Following this, the team will focus on a game-wide flight AI improvements as they continue to fine-tune the gameplay experience throughout the flight sections. So I think a lot of this is Squadron 42 specific. To understand, the AI vehicle team has been working on some of this stuff for a while. A lot of this is just polish and kind of corrections of small issues they've been having in missions. The flight team, the AI flight system, was completely overhauled in July, I want to say, or no, June. They just took the current AI system and adapted it to flight combat. So there's going to be different behaviors depending on the type of pilot that is flying the ship and the type of people who are operating the guns. It uses the same system that's used for the ground NPCs, which we have actually seen in the last year's CitizenCon presentation with the Squad 42 stuff. They showed that off a little bit. Animation. I'm going to say this right now because I know I'm going to put this on the thumbnail. This is where they start talking about post-alpha. Somebody in the animation team got really, really chewed out for saying the word beta in the last monthly report, because CIG usually dances around that word by saying polish or worked on or got up to, and never really said beta until animation said, we're just working on beta stuff now. And that caused a lot of people to be like, but beta? What are you talking about? Beta. And they stopped calling it that in this report. So animation. The animators collaborated with the level and AI designers to close out animations across various locations, including the med bay, bridge, mess hall, and hangar. Close out. Yeah, that's another word they use. They're currently improving the overall feel of the player interactions through slides, basic movement, weapon usage, and more. This involves adjusting weapon malfunctions, first-person interactions with the environment, such as opening a hatch, first selects for new weapons, and a selection of other animations. Additionally, progress was made on combat AI for both the enemies and civilians, and animation worked with narrative and design to get level-specific scenes implemented correctly. The motion capture team worked alongside the writers to add the finishing narrative touches to certain areas and supported spot movements to AI behaviors. On the facial side, the team completed a large number of behavioral lines and performances to bring the flight combat, ground combat, and background ambience to life. They also progressed with polished tasks for cast of characters. I was told that they said post-alpha here, but I do not see a post-alpha mention in the animation team. That's odd. I was lied to by my chat. How dare you, chat, lie to me about this? But a lot of this stuff is stuff that they've talked about before. Closing out, going through a lot of the stuff, opening, closing, adding the finishing narrative touches. There's a lot of allusions to them getting towards beta, which is a lot of stuff they've mentioned in the past. There's a lot of, as you'll see throughout this, there's a lot of mentions of things which sound like they're getting finished with the first version of Squadron 42. This isn't the version we're going to play, but this is obviously the first version that's going to be completed, sort of, without placeholder stuff. So Audio. Throughout August, the team worked towards major audio milestone. The aim of this is to provide sound effects for all the work done by the upstream strike teams and identify any required post-alpha changes. There it is. Post-alpha? That's just beta, audio team. That's what we call beta. or improvements. The tech team made significant progress on the Walla crowd audio system, which is close to the first pass complete. This system groups NPCs into clusters based on their proximity, allowing for dynamic localized audio that simulates ambient chatter. Resonance Tech progressed too, which was detailed in a recent episode of Inside Star Citizen. They talked about that, yeah. They also continued to ensure that the game builds remain stable during development so that the devs could work seamlessly. Audio then began tagging cinematic animations with new Foley sound effects. This is an integral push towards implementing audible layers to cinematics, with bespoke animations such as punches or fist bumps receiving their initial audio pass. So we do have confirmation that there will be punches and fist bumps in cinematics of Squadron 42. The team continued to design and implement effects for a variety of Squadron 42 specific weapons, including the Volt manufacturer, ensuring the sounds align with its bold, high-tech designs. Volt is a Squadron 42 only weapon? That's the first information that we've been told, that the Volt weapons are not going to be available in Star Citizen. Interesting. We're excited for the community to get their hands on these weapons and feel the brawny impact of the Galson shotgun blast to our Volt sniper. Or our Volt Sniper audio team. That seems like we're not going to get it until Squad 42 comes out, which is not anytime soon. There's also a significant push to create and improve sound effects for various puzzles found throughout the campaign. Every puzzle being in some way unique opened the doors to providing distinctive and innovative sounds. In-game gadgets, including the flashbang, also received fine-tuning and new improvements. Hey, we're getting a flashbang. I think it's the first mention of that in a while, too. Finally, for audio, they made a significant post-alpha beta audio team. Post-alpha is just beta. You can say the word. Animation did it for you last week or last month. They already took the fall. You can say beta now. We understand this. They made significant post-alpha improvements to the game environments, building on what was already in place and providing localizations with more subtle ambience. Features gameplay. August saw the word begin with the vehicle's radar's landing UI. To begin with, the team investigated rendering the environment outside of a ship in the vehicle's radar display, similar to the minimap, so players can see the area they intend to land on. The geometry will be marked up, so it will only display the relevant landing area. That's a system that we've had in Squadron 42 or in Star Citizen in the past, not necessarily Squadron 42, probably in Squadron 42, but it was very specific to the areas in Arena Commander, which allowed you to see where you were landing through a mini animation on your HUD. And it looks like they're using the minimap tech, the tech that they used for the in-game ship minimaps and the FPS minimaps that they've been using for Squadron, which will eventually go into Star Citizen, for that technology. So it's one of those things where they built a tool that works like this, and now they're seeing what the tool can also use, which is a lot. For camera transitions from first-person view to cinematic sequences, the team added the ability to create small track view sequences for the initial cutaway with smooth transitions to the cinematic cameras. For example, if the player is in a cockpit seat, the team can create a camera transition out through the widescreen for better visual flow, through the windscreen for visual flow. Oh, maybe we'll get the cinematic bars as well. That'd be cool. Elsewhere, gameplay features continued extending the crane controller functionality based on the new use case. They also made improvements to hints and tutorials, Mobiglass notification forwarding to the visor, and Mobiglass linking. Crane controller? So we're getting crane controls. Like loading and unloading cranes. Which isn't odd. have been for a while believing that we're going to get straight up rope puzzles in Star Citizen, in Squadron 42, I should say. And this is just more evidence of that. So those of you who have been angry at Beam Citizen, because embrace the beams, by the way. Yeah, we're definitely not just going to have beams. They're already putting that tech in Squadron 42. So. Features vehicle. Last month, vehicle features worked towards closing out self-status UI, filling out missing features in the various subscreens, including information on quantum travel and fuel. They received support from the UI art team on this to improve the visuals and ship rendering. Relating to this, the turret variation of the self-status NMFD can now render a 3D model of the turret, which will also be improved by UI artists in the near future. The vehicle loadout terminal is approaching feature complete, with the addition of special features for group equipping items. For example, changing a single ship thruster will change others if required, or equipping specific missile will automatically swap to the correct missile rack. Additionally, the UI art team is creating a 3D augmented reality display for the vehicle loadout terminal. This will be located at the Idris hangar where players can customize their ships. So that is obviously for Squadron specific, but I can't imagine it won't be also added to Star Citizen in the future, because that sort of tech is something we need. Moving everything they can away from the mobiGlass towards specific kiosks is something that CIG's been wanting to do for a while. Or removing anything from the mobiGlass to the MFDs is another thing they want to do. They want to make the mobiGlass strictly your social media tool, not a actual UI for like a lot of stuff. So. Vehicle features began looking into changes to vehicle aiming, exploring a feature similar to ADS. This will allow players to zoom in on their target and receive additional aiming assistance to target subcomponents or line up a better shot. This is still being explored. So I did see a lot of pings from people being like, Squadron 42 is already being taken ideas from, it's already being influenced by Starfield, because Starfield is a very similar kind of slow down time, zoom in and target a target. I don't think you're going to see that in Squadron. I think this is more of them trying to experiment with the ideas of targeting components, which is something that's in Star Citizen for a while now. I don't know if it's still in there or not. I haven't used it in a while. But to more of a kind of so you can see what you're actually shooting at and where that component is. And this is obviously a feature that they're looking into, which may not actually function, just them seeing if they want to do that. Also, to remind you, this was published in August. Starfield didn't come out until September, so this was before Starfield was released. So it's hard to put that in there. Progress was also made on the resource network, with the team providing support for various vehicle items that use fuel and power, such as quantum drives and thrusters. Very good. So the progress was also made on the resource network. That's pretty good. That's the one thing that we've been waiting for that's going to change everything. Thrusters using power is one of the more complicated aspects of this. We're still working through it. Vehicle features team. Lastly, vehicle features supported level design on their gameplay sequence, providing bug fixing and technical support for the smaller features to aid with building out levels and experiences. Most of the gameplay story's focus throughout August was on supporting the strike team with improvements and additions around the Idris. This involved refactoring and supporting the recently created deck crew track views and adding additional idle animations and improved prop interactions to the mess hall scenes. That fucking mess hall scenes, they're still working on that goddamn thing. They also spent a few days working on new turret content to add additional life to these areas. And by saying that, it's mostly a meme. The people who legitimately get angry because they're still working on mess hall stuff, like they'll be working on mess hall stuff until the day before it releases, and probably in post-release, because they just love their mess hall. My guess is that the mess hall is going to be a huge function in terms of the social aspect of Squadron 42, because a lot of people don't realize that Squadron 42 is broken up into three major components: FPS, ship combat, FPS, ship missions, and social aspects. And a lot of your time is going to be spent on the Stanton, the Idris, so you're going to have a lot of social stuff. If you haven't played Wing Commander, it's Wing Commander. It just more exploration on there than you usually can. They also spent a few days working on new turret content to add additional life to those areas. New mocap set data was used to incorporate several dialogue changes to key character scenes requested by design. They also created several resolve and out of animations to help characters exit their scenes and return to AI control. Towards the end of the month, the team switched focus to preparing for upcoming narrative shoots. We have about 20 new gameplay story scenes being recorded, and we're keen to ensure that the resulting data can be implemented as smoothly as possible. Gameplay story team. We do know that John Rice Davies came in for some pickup shots, so we may be seeing other people like Mark Hamill or even Gillian Anderson. Why am I blanking on his name? Henry Cavill and other actors coming into to make some other kind of changes as well. But we don't know exactly. We just know that they're doing pickup shots now. Graphics and VFX programming. In August, improvements were made to the internal implementation of temporal super resolution. Further progress was made on water, with the shader gaining improved lighting and foam. Working on the simulation continued too, with foam propagation and bullet impact support being added. The new prototype of the glint shading model was completed and comes in 3 different versions with different performance characteristics. The team are now investigating whether they can take one of these into production. Distant lights are now drawn as bright glows that pass through the existing post-effects system, with the aim of replacing the more traditional composite flare system that can't support post-effects. On the tooling side, the streaming debugger was expanded and now provides a powerful tool to track the detailed history of any asset or group to diagnose issues that facilitate optimizations. Mesh Setup Editor was also expanded to allow finer-grained control of how animated meshes are imported. The Vulkan subteam added new extensions, including Synchronization 2, Maintenance 4, and the Timeline Semaphore, to improve various aspects of the backend. Focus is now shifting to unblocking progress on global illumination, as the ray tracing component is Vulkan only. The VFX programming team implemented smoke spawning on fire alongside with other quality improvements to bring the feature to a visually complete and rather impressive state. Finally, further improvements to lighting effects were made, which will be used to future with gas clouds. So I think that's new for Squadron, the Vulkan effects, Vulkan stuff. So they're actually going to be getting ray tracing. So ray tracing is going to be part of Star Citizen. We've always known that, but like for Squadron 42 at least, we've always known that it's going to be part of it at some point, but it looks like they're now like digging into it. So level design. Last month, level design continued to focus on the Idris interstitials. Outside of the scene maintenance and updates, the social narrative team worked closely with the AI content. That's what I'm talking about with social. It's one of the major parts of level design. With AI content pushing hard on crew behaviors. This included supporting the implementation of background vignettes in the Idris hangar for use after a player lands. These include the deck crew pushing ladders up to the Gladius and climbing on top to carry out maintenance, refueling the ship, and carrying out cockpit and weapon checks. The same was done for the pre-flight vignettes, with the deck crew prepping for player's ship for takeoff with thruster and weapons checks. The team also started to work on having the previously static Idris moving during interstitials, which creates which is subtle but makes a difference. So what they're doing now is going through and like really ensuring that the atmosphere of the ship is busy and people are doing stuff, and you can see them doing these little vignettes, these little practice things when you get out of your ship and all that sort of thing. So that's pretty cool. Now, again, taking any indication of completion based off of that is a fool's errand. No one can tell you if that means it's getting close or not. Anyone who tells you that something like that means it's closer to being finished is lying to you or has no goddamn idea what they're talking about. There are other aspects, like them just straight up saying beta last month or saying post-alpha, but a game is not a single entity. There are multiple entities that are involved in a game making. That's why all these departments exist. Some departments can be further ahead than other departments in terms of completion. So just keep that in mind when I'm talking about some of this stuff. The only people who know how far Squadron 42 is in completion are the people who work on Squadron 42. And this is the most they're telling us. So, narrative. The narrative team was heavily involved in the recent performance capture shoots. This included interfacing with level designers to solidify the flow of levels and scripts, as well as working with core gameplay and audio teams to detail wildline scripts for characters. These included some new characters that had been introduced in the latest levels, as well as pickups for a handful of returning actors that had been previously captured. Part of these lines included buddy AI designs for both FPS and flight sections that had been implemented since the last time they'd been captured. The subtle validation work, the subtitle validation work that had begun last month was completed, with the teams reviewing and updating several thousand lines of dialogue to ensure the subtitles accurately reflected what was performance said. The team continued to delve into some of the collectibles that players will be able to find scattered throughout the levels. They also progressed with defining the categories and content that will go into the Squadron 42 Galactopedia. Now, the Galactopedia stuff that's in Squadron 42 will likely be ported over to Star Citizen, but it'll first be implemented in Squadron 42, because that is probably a much smaller, a much more limited amount of information that you're going to encounter in Squadron 42 versus Star Citizen. So, all right, we're almost done. R&D. In August, work on the temporal renderer mode for atmosphere and volumetric clouds continued. Various methods to rectify or reject frame history were experimented with. Furthermore, a new disocclusion detection system to reject history was implemented that, in spirit, is similar to the general upsampling solution. Additionally, various code was updated to work with the recent Dren 12 improvements. VFX. VFX continued to work discussed in July's report. In particular, fire propagation visuals were further improved, with fog volumes being used to show smoke accumulating at ceiling height, alongside further visual breakup of fire particle effects. That's pretty good. It's kind of smaller, and I almost certainly next month, September's monthly report for both Star Citizen and Squadron 42 are going to be as small, because there's a lot of stuff that they're saving for CitizenCon, and while it's not confirmed, and there is no absolute, they'll never tell us until we get there, I'm almost certain that we will be getting a Squadron 42 monthly, or Squadron 42 update at CitizenCon in some way, based off of a lot of the stuff that's on this report and a lot of the stuff that they've been talking about and kind of hinting at in the past. So, to summarize, a lot of the AI stuff we've been seeing in the past. The vehicle got the thing where you can, fine-tune, they can... aiming systems kind of working a little bit better. Animations working on a lot of closeout stuff, a lot of wrap-up stuff. They stuff for combat AI, for enemies and civilians. Level-specific scenes implemented correctly. A lot of motion capture stuff was done for pickup art, so pickup shots. There's a lot of new features, new AI that have been added, new buddy AI, new characters that have been added to some of the parts, some levels. As always, important to remember that Squadron 42 has got main stories and side stories, so they could have added some new parts to the side stories or new small sections of the main storyline, which added individual characters. So there's a lot of stuff that's going on. Audio just straight up talks about post-alpha stuff, which is just beta, my guys. It's just beta. But things like crowd audio, new Foley stuff, new weapons sound. We see rate landing UIs being added to the environment. We also see subcomponent targeting, resource network stuff done, mentions of thruster being able to be replaced, which is probably just an example, but that is something they wanted to do in the past, was be able to swap out the thrusters and the maneuvering thrusters and stuff like that. So, as well as the new loadout system that they've been creating. A lot of talks about in and out of animations for story stuff. Graphics talks about stuff for ray tracing. The level design talked about a lot of social content, a lot of stuff on the Idris, a lot of kind of vignettes being worked on, as well as subtitles being finished up, and then a lot of stuff on fire and fire propagation in general. So it's pretty good. The continue of my tinfoil hat theory that Squadron 42 is a lot further along than people realize continues. For those of you who've been following this, I've been doing this for months and been saying, why just this sounds very odd, CIG. You're giving me the tingling feeling that I don't want to feel about that maybe you're actually going to do something and not just sit there and work on an alpha forever. So who knows? I do want to know your thoughts. Am I just huffing hopium and copium? Am I just mainlining it into my veins at this point? Or do you see something similar? Let me know in the comments down below. As always, remember to watch us live on Thursdays at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, twitch.tv/theastropub on Thursdays. Love to see you here. And like I always say, hope to see you someday in the black.